Hello everyone and welcome to Total War Through the Ages. Starting things off with this episode, we've got a quick battle here. Gonna just kind of showcasing our all-cavalry army. It's all horse archers except for our 3 generals, which are of course our heavy cavalry horse archers. Now this is a very interesting feature of this map. It has this little villa over here. I checked that out because I wanted to see if it actually could be occupied or not by enemy infantry. It cannot. Either way, for the rest of the battle, we split 2 units of horse archers on either side, 3 in our middle, but the enemy army actually just tries to escape the field. They try to withdraw from the field. So once I notice that they're just running away towards the edge of the map, we just do an all-out charge and ride them down. And yeah, it's pretty effective. Cavalry's pretty solid, especially when their infantry's all split up and trying to run away. That's not a good thing. That's just generally a bad idea. So our cavalry goes through, mops it up, easy peasy, nothing too difficult, very simple, straightforward battle. They do get some of their units do escape. They are able to get some people out, but for the most part, we do pretty well. We take out most of their forces. Our fleet here gets attacked, and I was scared to death. I was like, no, because if that fleet dies, that goes our entire army and our 1 general. Fortunately, we lost the battle, but fortunately, the pirates were not able to chase us, so we were able to get the army off and our ship safely to port. So we're going to be sending the army back to retrain, resupply, get built back up, at which point we're going to come back in with a vengeance and retake that city in northern Anatolia there. Meanwhile, with this cavalry army, I was contemplating attacking that settlement there, but I ultimately decided against it because I didn't have any infantry, so I can't actually conduct an assault, and the Eastern Roman Empire has forces close enough that they would be able to reinforce, and I just didn't feel like... I didn't think that was a good call. Now, their capital, Constantinople, is actually basically undefended, so keeping that in mind, I'm kind of like, well, I do have a fleet up in the Black Sea with an army positioning or preparing to be an assaulting force, so I kind of was like, well, if Constantinople was still very weak, we might actually go for it rather than the northern city, but that was just kind of a brief idea I had, but again, for the most part, I still am planning on going for the city in the north. Up next, we again just doing more positioning, training our forces. We besiege that rebel-controlled settlement. We're going to be capturing it relatively soon. Again, won't give us too many problems. Positioning our army around. Now, our cavalry army up there is mostly just acting as a harassing element because I don't want any large force coming from the west up in Anatolia. So I don't want them training up an army in any of those settlements up there, like they actually have one in that settlement just west of our army there, and this one right here. So like they're trying to pipeline units back towards the Middle East, and well, that army of cavalry is basically there to act as a harassing force and stop any substantial force from getting through. So we will actually be doing some attacks and stuff with this army, conducting quite a few not really hit and run. Well, I guess it is kind of hit and runs. Basically harassing the enemy forces so that they can't get an established army through to reinforce this area. We launch an assault. As you saw there, we did send 1 unit of horse archers back because we're going to get them retrained. They actually have quite a bit of experience, so we didn't want to lose that unit. I wanted to pull them back and we can get them retrained. Meanwhile, this siege, we only have 1 unit of horse archers. Everything else is our infantry. We actually have our 3 units of heavy infantry in this army, as well as just 3 spearmen. Relatively simple assault here, but again, it's a little bit interesting because, well, we're a cavalry army. We don't like using infantry whenever... we just don't like using infantry. Particularly, I don't like using Sassanid infantry because the heavy infantry didn't seem to be that good overall. Now, they do okay for us here, but again, the siege isn't super close. Like, I was confident I was going to win, but there were a few moments where I was like, we might lose. If one of our units had routed at a really bad time, that, we definitely could have lost this. This was I won't say we won by a narrow margin, but it was close. It was a lot closer than I would have liked, and that's mostly just due because I didn't have a very large force here, and it's basically all infantry. So overall, the rebels didn't try and hold the walls, which was the biggest thing, like the greatest thing for me. Like, it was the worst thing they could have done was not hold the walls. So they try and hold this town center, and that's where my force archers is able to maneuver quite a bit, and is actually able to function fairly effectively because, as you see, like, that's a pretty decent space there, and when you're talking a small army like this, because the rebels also had a small force, I actually was able to use them fairly effectively. And they actually did have 1 unit over here on the walls that actually did rout my 1 unit of spearmen, and I actually thought was going to take out my other unit as well, and they they actually do rout it right there at the end, but we held this town center, so we do ultimately win. Successfully captured that, and then we want to go ahead and go on the offensive and attack with this army, our cavalry force once again, And yeah, so we are outnumbered here, but we have all cavalry. They don't. We have the advantage. Plus, because it's also horse archers, which are really awesome. So again, similar thing we keep. And at this point, because I sent the one unit back, we basically have 6 units of horse archers. So 2 in the middle, 2 on the left, 2 on the left, 2 in the middle, 2 on the right. All 3 of our generals are in the center. I actually did think about maybe putting our actual like commanding general in the center, and then each of the other general bodyguards units to the left, and like one on the left, one on the right. So we have 3 equal forces. But I decided to go ahead and keep it how I had, where we basically have all 3 of our general bodyguard units in the center, kind of give us a little more punch there. Now, for the most part, this battle actually took a long time to play, mostly just because I utilized my horse archers to full effect, and I didn't do very many charges throughout the battle until the end, like until we got to the end where we were breaking enemy units and running them down. For the most part, I just let my horse archers sit back and shoot, so it took quite a while to just sit back and wither down the enemy units, and there was a lot of, hit and run where our cavalry were retreating constantly, kind of skirmishing like that, because that's what they're really good at. And this was like the first battle where I just embraced that 100% and didn't try and go for any charges, really. Again, I did go for some charges, but I'm not nearly as much as I have in previous battles, so that was kind of the first true test. Right there, you see that's the next turn, our army. We fall back a little bit, go back to try and take out that enemy force, but then the enemy army that was trying to get to the valley there does actually attack us. And they have quite a few units of archers, but they don't really lack... but they only have like 1 unit of cavalry, and they don't really have that many heavy infantry. They have like 1 or 2 units. So, again, pretty simple. We actually go for the reinforcing army first, because, hey, attack them as they're coming onto the field always seems to work pretty well. We actually split our forces. We send our general's unit to go attack them, and the rest of our horse archers we split out, again, in groups of 2, so pairs of units, pair of horse archers. And then we try and get over onto the top of that hill, because because there was that big slope there, that gives an advantage to the infantry. So I wanted to try and lure the enemy infantry either to the top of the slope or to the base of the slope, where the incline of that hill there is not really going to be a factor. Overall, we're able to do that. Again, same basic tactic. We just sit back and shoot until we wither them down and they start routing, at which point we can charge in at the end. So again, another easy, simple battle. And man, this was the turning point in the campaign. This was the point where I'm like, you know what? Screw anything else. We're just gonna go horse archers, and that's it. Like we're just gonna do horse archers, because horse archers are amazing. Now again, that's not entirely true. We do recruit some heavy cavalry here or there. We do recruit some infantry and spearmen and archers, but then the spearmen and archers we basically only recruit as garrison forces to basically defend our cities once we've captured them, because we do need infantry. But even then, I probably could have effectively used just a ton of horse archers and put them in the cities, and we could have charged out of the gates. But either way, here we have the Samatia. I don't really know how to pronounce that, but basically they do a trade deal, map information, as well as I believe also an alliance there. So we actually got some diplomatic relations going with them. They offered that to us. I didn't even know those people until they were like, hey, want to be friends? And I'm like, sure, we'll be friends. So of course, trade is always good. Here's another battle again. Our cavalry army is doing great. I'm trying to remember here what happened to my general. I think our one general unit, I don't believe he died. I don't think he died. I'm pretty sure I sent him to a different... I think I just sent him... Oh, that's right. The city that we captured from the rebels earlier, I sent one of the 3 generals with this army. We sent him back to act as the governor there, because that army didn't have a general leading it when it captured it. Yeah, so that city right there you see in the bottom right corner, that's where our 3rd general is. I believe he's acting as the governor there. So now we have 2 generals and some horse archers, but again, like I said, we're just really focusing on harassing. I could have pushed my advantage there and gone, but I was worried about the garrison force that the city to the west there had, and I thought that they might actually sally out and try and attack us, and I wasn't feeling confident. I don't want to lose my force of horse archers. I want to keep them mobile. So again, we're trying to build. I'm currently building up reinforcements, like in Antioch, and mostly Antioch, because as you saw there, Jerusalem gets besieged, so that's going to be a nasty battle we're going to have to deal with. 2 new children come of age, so that's great. 2 new generals, we're going to send them to the front line. As you also saw there, we also landed our army, so we are going, I swear we're going to do it this time. We're going to capture the city, but we did that already. We've captured it already, but we're going to capture it and we're going to hold it. And I will be very frustrated if we fail. But I was very confident going into this that we were going to be able to capture it and hold it, mostly due to the fact that we have our cavalry army that is harassing. And so basically we're going to capture this settlement, and unless they revolt, I was confident in my ability to actually be able to hold it. Again, barring a revolt. But that's why I built up a much larger force, because that army that is besieging there is way bigger than we need to capture it, but I wanted a lot of troops there so that we could actually hold it and basically suppress a revolt. And our cavalry army also goes ahead and besiege. The idea there being they're besieging that city, but we can send infantry from the city to the north of them down to act as our assaulting infantry. Either way, that's all the time for this episode. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to check back for more, and as always, till next time.